Welcome to ED 621C, Module 9. If you're here, you have watched the orientation or attended the orientation meeting that we had on Tuesday. Please make sure you watch that before you start Module 9, and this is the PowerPoint if you need to just look at the PowerPoint. So for Module 9, our objective is that you demonstrate your understanding of the difference between academic assessments and authentic performance tasks. You read, watch, review, and reflect on and apply the resources in this module. Please read Understanding by Design, Chapters 4 and 7. I can't emphasize that enough, especially Chapter 7. Classroom Assessment, Taylor Nolan, Chapter 5. So your products are to read the article Assessment Through Students' Eyes, which is in the module materials, and write a brief reflection on the discussion forum. Using the content of your UbD unit, you will design 2 culminating performance tasks using the GRASPS framework template and submit it to the Dropbox by the due date for review and feedback. And this is a suggestion, in preparation for your final submission, please take the time to embed your 2 finalized post-revision culminating performance tasks, student versions, into your UbD unit in the culminating performance task section, because you will be submitting this at the end of the course. Please do not post this, just prepare it. So the idea is just to be ready so you don't have extra work at the end. But don't put it in until it's done, until you've gotten your revisions done. This screencast will be right here. There's the PowerPoint that you will be seeing in a few minutes. Here is the article Assessment Through Students' Eyes and the Dropbox for your reflection for the article. Assessment ideas, mix it up. Just so you know, and I'm going to be talking about this as we go along, but these forms of assessment can be combined and embedded into a culminating performance task. In and of themselves, they are not a culminating performance task. You are going to be doing rubrics for the tasks anyway in the next module, but you will definitely want to have a rubric that the students can access and use to self-evaluate and evaluate their product, and that you can use also to evaluate their product. You can add writing in it, you can embed writing in it, but writing is not a performance task in and of itself. Presentations are not a performance task in and of itself. It's the process of how you get to the presentation that is the performance task. Discussion boards, same, but you can use those as a final presentation piece. Self-assessment, you can have checklists, you can have them do a writing sample, you can have them do a rubric. And interviews, if you interview with the students to ask them questions about what content they've covered or what they've learned, that's also a nice way to do it. But again, it's not a culminating performance task in and of itself. So when I say mix it up, that means you can put a lot of these, embed a few of these, 2, 3, even just 1, into a performance task. Although I take that back on just 1 because you'll end up having a few. Just so you know. What does GRASPS stand for? I'll go over it again, but this is just for you to know what it actually stands for, and this is a reference sheet for you, and it gives you the details of what GRASPS actually stands for. There are examples for K-12. There are STEM examples, and I'm going to walk through this one only because if you don't know what you're looking for, it'd be harder to find it. But for those of you doing science and math, here's of course what the GRASPS stands for. He doesn't put S here, but S is a success criteria, so it is important. But here are the performance tasks for STEM library. These are examples. Green construction, so you click on it, you have the big ideas, you have the essential questions, and then you have the goal, which is written right here. Then you have the role, which is written right here. Audience, there. Situation, there. Products, there. And then you can see that it has technical scope of work, which is really probably more the success criteria than anything. Scale drawing, whatever it is that they have to do. So the idea is that it's culminating performance tasks in this sense, and this is grade 12, are big. They're not small. They're not writing samples or writing projects or research projects. And I'll talk more about that. So here's a template that you're going to use for your GRASPS. here it is. You'll probably have noticed a little glitch in the recording. Here's your GRASP template, and what you're going to do from your big idea and your essential questions from your unit, you're going to write down what the big idea is, the enduring understandings are. You don't have to write the big idea, but you know that that's what they're related to, and the essential questions. And then you're going to construct a performance test scenario using GRASPS. These will be directly related to your EUs and EQs. So in both CPTs, you're going to be having the same enduring understandings and essential questions that you're going to plug in. You're just going to plop into these two squares, those boxes. And then you can consider the following set of STEM statements as you construct a scenario for a performance task. Refer to the tables above to help you brainstorm possible scenarios. These are idea starters. I'm sorry, there aren't any tables above. Resist the urge to fill in all of the blanks. So choose one, maybe two, but you're only going to choose one. Your task is, your role is, your audience is, your situation is, your product performance is, and the standards for criteria. And you need to have these ready because you're going to be using these to develop your rubrics in Module 10. Now you've got the outline of it here, and now you need to make it so that the students will understand it. So this is their version of the culminating performance task based on what you have written up there. So what does that look like, you ask? Well, there's some kindergarten examples. Let's take a look at a kindergarten example. For those of you that are working with little guys, we looked at the K-12 ones. So the goal of this activity is to group baby animals and their moms together. Their role, zookeeper, manager of the zoo. The audience is the manager of the zoo who's going to be judging how you're managing the babies, and your situation is there are different baby animals that are lost without their moms. It's your job to sort the animals into 5 groups. You'll be given a bag of plastic baby animals and a bag of the matching mother animals, and it's your job to place the animals in pens. So obviously this is for very young children. In the end, you'll have sorted the animals by 5 different characteristics in the basket. And so the characteristics are, I don't have those characteristics here because they're right here. Project done in a timely fashion, was able to tell the teacher about the similarities and differences of the animals, sorted in their correct pens, and the project showed overall understanding of the similarities between animals. This is a very broad and vague rubric, which I actually will not probably support. You'll probably have to be a little more specific than that, but here's an example of the animals in the pen. And one of the things that needed to be included in this rubric, now that we're just at this rubric, is that you needed to have those 5 criteria on here. What are the 5 criteria that this child is sorting the animals on? So that would be another element of the rubric here. But you can see, you get the idea of what we're looking for when we're looking at a culminating performance task. Then you have 2 examples, which I'm not going to open, from my nutrition unit. You are what you eat and chow down, but you want to look at those examples just to see. These are the templates and the student version of the performance task. So when you're done, you're going to have 2 completed performance tasks using the GRASPS organizer, and you're going to submit them into the Dropbox by the due date. So that's what you're doing for this module. So let's take a look at what we're really talking about. We're looking at determining acceptable evidence for this, in this case, the content of your UbD unit. So as you know, this stage identifies specific assessments that will be used. It will identify the summative assessment. A culminating performance task is a summative assessment, but it's big. It has many arms. And what is the culminating activity that will represent the understanding students have gained from the unit? So you're going back up to the enduring understandings, and you're going back up to the standards themselves, the goals and the standards. You're scaffolding all this learning they've done back to this culminating performance task, which is the final assessment for the content of your unit, and using the GRASP format to do that. So examples of assessment types, we know that all these different examples. And so right now what we're looking at is performance tasks down here. We will be getting to tests and quizzes. We're going to make a distinction between academic prompts and performance tasks. Observations and dialogues are ways that you can formatively assess students' skills and abilities, and informal checks for understanding. So why my phone. I'm going to move it away. Understanding is revealed in performance. And that's Tighe and Wiggins, that's Montessori. Performance is a big deal. And it's not something like when I perform my task, I'm not just writing something. I have to interact with people. I have to write something. I have to be able to use technology. I have to be able to present information. So there's so much involved in knowing your content area or knowing your topic area or knowing core ideas that performance tasks are really the most effective way in this model of curriculum development of assessing that. I want you to look at this very closely. This is a page from Chapter 7, Performance Tasks, Academic Prompts, Quiz and Test Items, and Informal Checks for Understanding. I am making a very specific distinction for you between performance tasks and academic prompts. What I'm not going to support as a culminating performance task is a research project. Your task is complex, and what is very important to understand when we talked about transfer goals two sessions back, right? Complex challenges that mirror the issues and problems faced by adults. You're bringing students up to what they're going to face when they're not sitting in your classroom in school. It involves a real or simulated setting, typically require the student to address an identified audience, real or simulated, are based on specific purpose that relates to the audience, allows students greater opportunity to personalize the task, and they're not secured. The evaluative criteria are known in advance, and the students can actually use those criteria to develop their product. So I'm giving you two examples of a difference between academic prompts and performance tasks. Academic prompts, open-ended questions may seem like they're performance tasks, but they're really not. They do require the student to think critically, just not recall knowledge. Remember, we're thinking about higher level thinking, and to prepare a specific academic response product or performance. Therefore, they're constructed responses. They may not have a single best answer. They are often ill-structured, requiring the development of a strategy, which is important when you want to know if somebody understands what to do. Involve analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. There we go with Bloom's. Typically require an explanation or defense of an answer. Require judgment-based scoring, A, B, C, D, not proficient, proficient, exceeds proficiency, may or may not be secure, and involve questions typically only asked of students in school. And I want you to look at that last question, or last bullet, very carefully, because that's really what we don't want in a performance task. So, what is the difference between grow strawberries in 3 different mediums and see which produces the best fruit based on sweetness, size, and rapid growth? Versus look up on the internet and find 5 varieties of strawberries, describe the characteristics of each, and tell why they are different. Academic prompt, closer to performance task. So this would involve actually more context than this, but you can see the difference. Here, they're hands-on. They have to evaluate the quality of the mediums they use. They have to evaluate the quality of the strawberries that grow, if they grow at all, and even the environment in which they are raised. So all of this requires a huge amount of knowledge about growing plants, and in particular strawberries in this case, as opposed to looking it up on the internet. It's closed. Why are they different? It's a constructed response. There may not be. This has a very, very clearly. These aren't even open answers. They're just not. This is very, very specific. Only asked of students in school. Why would you ask anybody that? If you're going to grow strawberries, grow strawberries. Talk about growing strawberries. And if you talk about plant growth and mediums and environments, then what better way to do that than to actually have students plant things in a medium and environment that requires some investigation. So these are the elements of performance assessments. They're authentic, meaningful problems. They're realistically contextualized. They require judgment and innovation. They ask students to do the subject, just like we were talking about the strawberries. Replicates key challenging situation in which adults are truly tested. So if you are going to have a garden and you're going to sell your produce, what do you need to have happen? Or even if you're just going to eat it. Assess the student's ability to efficiently and effectively use a repertoire of knowledge. And a repertoire of knowledge means a wide range of knowledge and skill to negotiate a complex and multi-stage task. That means it has more than one stage to it, which means you as a teacher have to think in more than one stage. It's not just going to be a final project. Allows appropriate opportunities to rehearse, practice, consult resources, and get feedback. And so often there's an interactive, in fact, there should be an interactive nature to this kind of project. So, GRASPS. I get it. I grasp the idea. I grasp the performance task scenario. I get it. I'm going to show you that I get it by you giving me this opportunity in terms of this project. So you're going to give me, and I'm talking as a student now, a goal. What is my goal? What is my role? Who is my audience? What is the situation I'm put in? What kind of things do I need to have done for that situation? And how do I know as a student that I have met the criteria for success? And then that you as a teacher will also know that I've met it. So there we are. The baby gets the idea. I get it. Rules for, and I pulled this right out of Taylor and Nolan because they talk about it a little bit differently. We're really going with Wiggins and Tighe framework, but these are also very important elements for evaluating your performance tasks. Make sure they measure the learning objectives that are targeted. So learning objectives, essential questions, enduring understandings, goals, standards. Keep it simple. Don't add too much to one item, but you know you're going to have a complex of things that students are going to have to put together. Include the scoring criteria in the directions, prompt, or question. Provide a model for yourself, especially if it's something that you're designing new that hasn't already been created, while developing the tests and for students to understand the expectations. Decide on the most efficient types of evaluation measures you will use. If using a rubric, create a separate set of rubrics for each dimension of expected performance. So if you have, first of all, the content, the medium of the strawberries, the criteria, the quality of the strawberries, all that's content. Then there's the presentation. The presentation has a separate rubric. And then there might be, or you can use separate lines in the rubric to identify these things. You can do it a number of different ways. You don't have to have separate rubrics, but you have to have line items for each thing you're asking the students to do. And be efficient for yourself. And you can't read this last line, but set up a rubric or scoring template you can adjust if you want to reuse it, even across content areas. And you've already done the cross content area thing in B, so you know that the rubric is going to cover more than one content area. So types of performance tasks, setting a portfolio, performances and exhibitions, projects, and notice the word investigations. It's not just the doing, but the investigating. And the investigating is the important part of the culminating performance task. Observation checklist, that's for self-evaluation or teacher evaluation, learning logs and journals, graphic organizers, interviews, personal conferences. All these can be parts of your performance task and should be. So here's another version of the template, short version. So this is your task. Your goal is to create 2 authentic performance assessments based on your multidisciplinary unit of study that are designed to help students access deeper meaning and engage them in authentic learning as participants in understanding the heart of the content of your unit. Classroom teacher, you are the classroom teacher of this unit per your grade level and content area choice. Your audience is your classroom students, your building administrator, for some of you, and me. The situation, you're asked to effectively assess your students on their understanding of the content of the unit of study you've created using 2 culminating performance tasks. Using the GRASP, and the product is using the GRASP performance task framework. You're going to create 2 performance-based tasks that are directly related to your essential questions and enduring understandings. You will have to have your success criteria listed out, but in Module 10 we will work more in depth on the evaluation criteria. That will be the rubrics. So you will 2 accurately composed GRASPS graphic organizers, and the rubric for that is attached in the assignment Dropbox. So let me know if you have any questions. So your other tasks: read, review, and apply the material in Module 9. It's all there to help you. It's all very useful material. Reading the article, submitting assignments in their drop boxes, the article reflection, and the GRASP performance tasks. I'll provide feedback if they're delivered on time. Please do not email me the assignments. You guys have been real good about that. Let me know if you have any questions. Email is best, and your assignments are due March 12th. So if you have any questions, you know to email me, you can call me, whatever it is that you might need in terms of help. So like a little puffin who looks like a little professor walking along about his business. Well, I'll let you get to your business, and I look forward to looking at and talking with you, having conversations with you about your performance tasks. So with that, enjoy Module 9.